today we do have a special guest. We have Calvin Zelaya, who is the Revenos Senior Manager. And I will also give you access right now to share screen in case you need to. And it is all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here and thank you for the invite. My name is Calvin Zelaya. I'm the Senior Manager here at eXp Revenos for the Institutional Investment Services and also do REO as well. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more about both of our programs here and answer any questions you may have about Revenos. You know, it's a little bit difficult to understand, so hopefully I'll shed some light and be able to explain things a little bit to you. So what Revenos is, it's eXp's buyer and seller referral engine. So we have and provide different leads to our EXP agents. And they are for example, we have relocation, affinity, REO, bundle select, institutional investment services, making it rain, express offers, and honor military rewards. And this is what falls under the umbrella of what's called Revenos. So if you have a particular niche that you enjoy or want to learn more about, that's what all these represent. So Revenos is the umbrella they all fall under. And we're under our VP is Don Conchatori. So if you are interested in receiving any leads or learning more about each business unit, this is what we do. And this is what we ever provide buyer and seller leads to everyone. And I guess I got a little bit into it, but just let me give you a little bit of my background. I guess I should have started with that and, just a little bit, I guess, anxious to be able to do it. So my background is I'm a real estate broker in the state of California. And I recently moved to Houston in June. And I just recently went through my first hurricane and survived it. So Hurricane Beryl came through. We actually slept through it. And the issue was not the hurricane itself, but the aftermath. There was a lot of downed trees and I lost power 8:30 a.m. like local time. I logged into my normal day. I started working and next thing I know, power went out and it never came back until yesterday at afternoon. So we were a couple of days without power. So that was kind of frustrating. Some people are still without power, but luckily we're okay. And it was just an interesting experience. And I actually slept through the whole hurricane part of it. So I guess we're accustomed to it. It felt like it wasn't even a 4.0 kind of thing in California earthquake terms, I guess, right? And my background is, like I said, I'm a real estate broker in the state of California. And my brother and I had a real estate and mortgage company in 2003 when I first got my broker's license. And then everything kind of went to heck around 2006, the start of 2007, when credit had tightened up and we could no longer, it was weird, right? January came and nothing closed, February, March. And then, we couldn't keep the doors open with us getting no business. And that's when I decided to get into REO back in 2007. And I started with this company called AmeriQuest or AMC Mortgage.
You were with AmeriQuest?
Yeah, with AMC
Hi.
Mortgage, yes.
Kevin, I'm Rosie, by the way. I just jumped in.
Yeah, hi, Rosie.
Yeah.
No.
I was with AmeriQuest before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I worked with them they started opening a Rancho Cucamonga branch, and that's where I started working with them back in 2007. And they got bought out by City Residential, and they got taken over by City Residential. And I was, working with them. And then I interviewed for this company called Fannie Mae. And at the same time, it was EMC Mortgage. And they both made me an offer, and I tried to use them against each other. And it kind of backfired a little bit. Where the Fannie Mae person said, well, I suggest if you have another offer, you take it. And I was like, well, I will. So I went to go work with EMC Mortgage, and I don't know if you've heard of this company called Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns went under right around the same time that I was accepting an offer with EMC Mortgage. So EMC Mortgage was owned by Bear Stearns, and then I started in September of 2008 with EMC, but at the time I had accepted with EMC, but now I was a JP Morgan Chase employee because they got bought out by JP Morgan Chase. And a lot of my friends went to go work for Fannie Mae, and they were telling me how great and fabulous it was over there. And, I was doing well, but at the same time, you have that greener pastures, right? And so in 2009, I went to work for Fannie Mae, and I worked there until 2018 when they pretty much had told us that if we don't move to Dallas, then they were going to lay us off. And I opted not to move at the time. It wasn't right for our family, and I got laid off. But I ended on Friday, and then I flew out on, I think it was Saturday night to go train in Houston area and for Shell Point Mortgage Servicing on Monday. I was starting Monday for my new position there. And so I went to Shell Point Mortgage Servicing, and that's where I met Don Conchatori. And then Don Conchatori was kind of having me say, hey, come over here, help us out. And that's how I ended up at eXp in February of 2022. So Ever since then, I've been here. I bring the background of asset management, so try to give you insider information. That's when I do a REO certification. I give you like some of the insides of what's happening internally, because what I thought as an agent and what I hear a lot of agents think of what happens internally is closed, but not really. It's like 20%. Then there's like the 80% that they don't know about. So it's really interesting that of all the things that happen internally. So that's my background. I guess I should have led with that, and I apologize that I kind of got ahead of myself because I was excited to get into it. So I was saying, back to Revenos. Revenos is the umbrella that covers all these business units. And let's see, it starts off with relocation. So relocation has to do with a company that's going to relocate an employee, and they have to do two things. They have to sell their home and they have to buy or rent a new home. So there's two transactions usually on a relocation. So relocation is the company sponsored a move. And a good example would be, not that we did this, but with Tesla, that went from California to Austin. Well, they relocated those employees, so they had to sell their home. So they had to find an agent in California, and they had to go buy a home. So they had to find an agent in Texas. So therefore, relocation has great opportunities as well. So, and then affinity, people don't really know what affinity is. It's anything not relocation related when it comes to a company. So for example, let's say somebody is moving, but they're not relocating from a company. They have to go buy real estate just like anybody else. And that's where affinity comes in. And then you have programs like Home Story and different programs where they go and sign up for Chase, right? They say, hey, I want to buy a home. I'll put you in contact with an agent. And then they go through Home Story. Home Story comes to us, EXP. We have a relationship with them. And then that's how we get buyer and seller leads as well. And then the other one is Bundle Select. So Bundle Select actually falls under affinity. And what Bundle Select, it's a subscription program that you pay $1,000 a year. And what you do is you go to the companies or like businesses and tell them, hey, I have a free HR benefit for you to be able to offer discount services for your employees. And the bread and butter that for the actual person who started this, he said he goes to the smaller companies, right? The 50 and under employees, because everybody tends to ignore them. They all want to go for them, the huge Teslas and the big companies, and the little ones usually get ignored. But then, about 10% of the population moves every year. So if you have 50, you have potentially 5 employees that are going to move in that company. So Bundle Select helps you capitalize on knowing business partners or business people that have business decision making and being able to offer this to their employees as a free employee benefit. So that's a great something to look into. On our military rewards, it has to do with our men and women that serve the military, and to be able to provide similar, it also falls under affinity, and to be able to provide the real estate services to them. So the next one is Making It Rain. Making It Rain is a little bit different. And the reason it's a little bit different is you actually pay a subscription as well. But most of our leads are you pay a referral fee at closing. With Making It Rain is you pay a monthly fee. They help you with your social media and CRM to build leads, and then you nurture those leads and to become a lead eventually. And then the one that I'm going to be focusing on today is Institutional Investment Services, also REO. But let me go into Express Offers real quick. Express Offers is our buyer program. So we recently joined with Open Door. So your buyers, so whenever you're listing, part of the whole process is for you to bring options and opportunities for your seller. So with Express Offers, you're able to bring them a cash offer in case they want to sell a property quickly and efficiently. Institutional Investment Services, what we do is we're working with these big institutions. And what we do is we're offering them disposition services and also acquisition services. Right now, we've been mostly working with their disposition services, where they give us properties that they want to liquidate, and then we give them valuations for them with a BPO, and then they list the properties with us to help liquidate their portfolio, and that helps them go make more acquisitions. So these are properties that are either built to rent or rental properties that are now going to be liquidated and sold because they either made enough equity or they want to get out of that particular market. And REO, like I mentioned, is the real estate owned, and real estate owned has to do with foreclosed property, bank-owned properties. They got foreclosed on and taken over by the bank, and then you'd be able to manage it for them as the property progresses. Now, REO has been slow, and the reason it's been slow is if you're getting equity sales, REO is doing poorly. And the reason is because if somebody gets in financial trouble, they have equity, they can sell their home and, get out of bad situation. So what's going to happen eventually, and that's why we focus on all these different business units. So for example, when relocation and employment is high, right? Relocation is doing well, REO is doing poorly. And then if unemployment starts going up, then that means relocation is doing poorly, but REO starts doing well. And we're starting to see some cracks in the economy and potentially higher unemployment coming our way, which means REO might be coming into the near future to start seeing more of it. Right now has been really slow and not as high as we anticipated. So this is our Revenos leadership. Like I said, we fall under the umbrella with Don Contratori as our leader. And Cindy Nixon is the Affinity and Relocation Senior Relocation, Global Relocation Manager. And she's over pretty much everything having to do with Affinity and relocation. And you have Mark Woodling, who I report to. And Mark Woodling has the Institutional Investment Director for Institutional Investment Services and also with REO as well. And then you have myself, which is, here today. And we also have Kevin Kaminsky, who's in charge of communications and also making it rain. Terrence Clark is over Express Offers, and Lucy Beltran is for EXP Solutions. And if you're not familiar with EXP Solutions, that's another great benefit. So what we do is we, join forces with these companies to be able to offer services for our buyers and sellers. And sometimes you're able to get a portion of that sale back in, as a commission. So REO. So we assign bank-owned properties, and our goal is to deliver exceptional service and be the top tier real estate company for institutional and non-institutional sellers. And the way we try to achieve this is by giving you the education, the right tools, the training, process, procedures, and support to be able to, help you navigate these properties. So what is an REO property? An REO property stands for real estate owned, and it frequently gets confused with relo. Relocation and REO get confused multiple times because that letter, relocation, RELO and REO. So they get frequently confused, but they're not to be confused with relocation. But what these properties are acquired through foreclosure or a deed in lieu of foreclosure. And these properties are typically called bank repos, bank-owned properties, corporate-owned properties. All that really means the same thing for REO. So that's what REO stands for. And the reason we have REO is we're trying to give you more referrals. And we get typical assignments from banks or financial institutions, servicers, hedge funds, and investors and GSCs such as Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie, and AMCs, asset management companies, and various other non-institutional owners that own REO properties that need to dispose of them. So what are we looking for when we're looking for REO qualifications? So we need you be REO certified, EXP REO certified. So we do have a certification, and we have the next one coming up on July 18th is going to be module number 1. There's 4 total modules, and they're about 3 hours each. And we go into step-by-step, cradle to grave on how to manage an REO property. And then we require to have 2 years of REO experience, but if your ink is still drying from getting your license, that's okay, because we can make exceptions on a case by case, and we would like for you to be licensed for 3 or more years. But like I said, we can make exceptions, and part of the reasons we can make exceptions is if you've ever done property management or renovations, if you've ever done fix and flips, you're probably more qualified than a lot of the REO agents out there because you know what it takes to make a profit on these properties, and that's what some of these people are looking for. Also, having a group of vendors such as renovation, handyman, trash out folks, locksmith in your back pocket is really going to be helpful in trying to make sure that you can bypass some of that experience requirement. And also, whenever we have an REO class, or not an REO class, but REO mandatory training, sometimes we have to have it for each client that you attend those meetings. And also we have an REO mastermind group in Workplace that we recommend you highly join, where you can ask questions. And if you take out your phones, you'll be able to scan this QR code to take you into the Workplace to be able to join. It's going to be a closed group, but all you have to do is request to join, and eventually we'll go in there and approve you. And I'll try to do that later today. I've been talking a lot. So are there any questions right now that I can answer on anything that we've asked?
One question I have is just because we know that, is there any REO business?
We've had some REO business from VRM, which is the VA company, and some businesses from ShellPoint. Because there's not a lot of business, what these companies have been doing is keeping a smaller network and keeping that smaller network busy so they become relevant. So that's what we started seeing. For example, at Fannie Mae, before I was leaving, we were shrinking our network because they were noticing that instead of giving, let's say, 20 people one property each and becoming irrelevant to that, right? They went down to let's say five agents to give them four properties each and becomes more relevant. So that's what they've been doing. So, but eventually, their network is now small. Eventually, they're going to need more people, and that's when they're going to have to expand the networks. That's why we haven't seen as much business. But yeah, we have seen some business from ShellPoint and also VRM, and we do have some agents that are approved with Fannie and Freddie, but those kind of have almost have to be invited to join those networks.
And because you covered a lot of the different areas, which one do you think has the most activity in like relocation or bundle select, military? You mentioned Homestrong. Which one do you think has the most activity?
Yeah, the one that has a lot of activity is relocation and affinity and institutional investment services. Those are the ones that are currently doing well. Institutional is doing a lot of it is like in Florida, Georgia, North and South Carolina, kind of like the East/Midwest kind of regions. And we have not seen as many in California. But the ones we do see all over are the relocation and the affinity and even bundle select, because bundle select is you being pretty much Revenos, where you're generating your own leads through that, through paying that fee and going up to these companies and offering the discounted services. So all those have a great opportunity for a lot of growth currently. And obviously, if you have a seller, right, and they want to get a cash offer, express offers is really good. So that's probably like, if any of these interest you, I recommend you go get certified. And, once you get certified, you have to fill out a profile, and that puts you in the radar for Revenos to be able to locate you. So, but definitely, I'll also provide a link towards the end to be able to have you guys sign up for and be ready on our list and radar. So when we do have properties that come into California, you guys are visible.
And during EXPCon, you usually have certifications. So I would imagine that'll be there as well.
Yeah, we typically have fast track certification. So fast track certification is only a 3-hour class. It's more of a general overview. We do go into detail, but not as much detail as we go into when we do the 4 certifications. But you can go to the EXPCon and get fast track certified. The certification is still valid. It's just, if you ever want to learn a little bit more, if you have more experience in these already, that's highly recommended you go get fast track certified. Otherwise, we do recommend that after you do get fast track certified, if you want to learn a little bit more about the ins and outs, you do take the full certification as well.
Okay, thank you.
So institutional investment services, this is the one that's been really been taken off more recently. Mark Woodling used to work at Roofstock, and Roofstock was one of our clients, and we were servicing Roofstock. But then he saw that a lot of what we were doing here at EXP is what he wanted Roofstock to kind of be. So he was able to speak to Leo. They're good friends. And Leo, he pitched institutional investment services, to be able to work with investors and institutions. And this is how he got started here at EXP a little over a year ago, almost a year and a few months ago. And he's really good at business development, and he has a lot of clients, or he knows a lot of folks in the industry, which is how we've been able to grow this business. And we've been doing really well. And this is to work with institutions. And this is kind of where you have commercial and residential kind of meet. And it's kind of like a hybrid of both of them. And what we're doing is we're creating opportunities for you to be able to list or even help purchase some of these properties from these institutions as well. So why do you want to work with institutional investment services? Is because you have a repeat customer, right? If you've ever worked with institutions, once they find an agent and they work well with that agent, they continue to give them repeat business, or the repeat acquisitions of multiple properties, or the disposition of multiple properties, and potentially this all could lead to more business for you. So you have a logical decision maker. They're very number oriented, very analytical, and they're usually less emotional, right? You don't have to deal as much with, seller who, his family grew up there for the last 30 years, and he's emotionally attached to that home. So to him, it's worth significantly more because of the emotional attachments. These folks tend to work more numbers and data driven. So a lot of the decision making is a little bit, based on return on investment and, like having that mentality like a typical seller. They're also seasoned buyers and sellers. Also, they want to know the statistical demographics of things, such as, what buyers in that area are selling and just different aspects of it. And according to Zillow, about 1 in 6 reported having 5 or more transactions. So we have a lot of possibilities that have been coming into play with these institutions. So for example, we have done over a significant number of BPOs. And what we do with the BPO is we offer the BPO at no cost to them when they say, hey, we want to sell this tranche of homes. And so we may call you, say, hey, can you do a BPO or even 10, 15, 20 BPOs at once? It has happened where we're doing 20, 30 BPOs at once. And not all of them may turn into a listing, but a large majority may turn into a listing. And we offer that service at no cost to try to earn that business from these institutions. So, and the median age of the landlord is currently 59 years old with a median income of 129,000 and change. And, we're trying to capitalize on this group and try to make sure that we're finding these institutionals and institutional buyers and sellers to be able to bring these leads to EXP. So they call it the SFR, the single family rental. And these properties are some of the ones, like I said, that either no longer want to be in that market or they feel that they've earned enough equity where they're going to be able to capitalize on that property. So the way that this business got started is, during the crisis, they had an excess amount of properties and they didn't know what to do with them, right? There's so many properties. So what they started doing is making these properties into rentals, either purchasing them REO and then turning them into rentals, or just turning some of these REOs they had into rentals and started to make this whole new industry called the SFR industry. And they've been a lot of players entering it. There's been a lot of growing pains, and some of these homes that they bought, some of them they might not have been as great of investment, or they just don't no longer want to be in that market. And now they're disposing of these properties. So we've seen 10 times growth from 700,000 to 7.6 million homes that are being owned. And we're seeing a lot of sales recently with this market. Okay. So who are we getting these listings from? So phase one is Wall Street landlords, funds, and asset managers. We also have service provider referrals, which is property managers, commercial lenders, insurance company and title companies. And then third is marketplaces such as Bigger Pockets, where you go find some of these deals and you go offer these deals to some of these institutions to try to make sure that you're staying in their face. And some of the three kind of phases that we work with. And we also have a workplace group. So if you take out your phones, you could join the Institutional Investment Services Workplace Group. There's also a certification for this one. This one's only 1 3-hour class. And I might have to give you the link because I don't think I have it in a QR code just yet for the link of institutional investments, where you can go and fill out a profile so that you can be on our radar and show us what coverage areas you have. So if an opportunity does come in your area, we're able to find you and see your experience and move you into institutional phase of it.
Are you seeing much of that in California, or is it more in other parts?
More in the other parts of the country. Remember, they went through where they can get a higher return on investment for rentals. So a lot of this, it was in the Midwest, Florida and Georgia, North and South Carolina, and some of these other parts. But they still own properties out here. They just probably haven't decided to sell them. And if they ever get in trouble or they need to liquidate, we want to make sure we have a network of folks to be able to tell them, hey, we have investor-centric agents here at EXP. They can help you with this. And that's what we want to make sure, even though we're not as busy in this area, and we've seen a few homes come through, but it's only like a handful of homes, we want to make sure we have a resource to them so that you can be there when they need you.
What would you say are the top 3 markets with the institutional investors?
Atlanta and Tampa and Atlanta and Georgia and Florida. Those are our biggest markets at this point. So if you have anybody on your downlines that live in those areas and have some of this REO or institutional experience, we definitely want them to be part of this. And especially if you have your team or they have anybody on their downline as well, to be able to help them find these folks, because we need to find more folks.
So in those markets, what would you say, how many do you have an overflow and underflow? Are you just wanting to get prepared?
Right now, we need more agents in those markets, especially because some agents have done over 200 BPOs and the client's a little bit concerned because they want to make sure they'll be able to handle the business, make sure it's being handled correctly. So they're looking for us to add more agents, to have more variety and have the ability to, just be able to spread out the wealth a little bit as well.
On those BPOs, are the agents also just doing it for the opportunity, or is there any?
Yeah, great question. Most of it is they're doing it for the opportunity, right? To be able to value the properties, to be able to earn the business. We are also working with another investor who actually just wanted a large order, and we are starting to look into that to be able to provide the BPO services where you go do a BPO and get paid on a BPO. as well. So the one thing I would tell you as an asset manager, whenever I would pay you for a BPO, you had very little opportunity to earn the listing or no opportunity to earn the listing. If you ever did a BPO for me for free, that's when you were either in contention or in the running. So just understand that if you ever get an agent, an asset manager that calls you and says, hey, I need a second opinion. Would you be able to help me with? I can't pay you for it, but you have the opportunity that if your valuation is better than the other agents, you have the opportunity to earn it. So just kind of understand that if you are getting paid for a BPO, very unlikely that you're not going to be able to earn that listing. But if you're not getting paid for it because you're potentially contending for that listing.
So those agents that are doing like hypothetically 200 BPOs to, attempt to earn the business, are there assignments that are coming through or no?
Yes. And this is over a few months. Has been over the last about 8 months now that we've had this. So it's, been going in and yeah, we're receiving more and more listings. It has taken them a little bit longer than we expected. Initially, we were expecting about 2 to 3 months, but it has taken maybe 4 to 6 months to start seeing some of these turnovers or conversions, I guess I should say, not turnovers, some of these conversions into listings, but it's really been great. And that's where because they've done so many BPOs and now they're ready to list some of these properties because it took them so long. Now they're seeing that our agents may be overly overwhelmed with the amount of listings that they're going to be receiving. So that's where we're trying to add more agents to the mix.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Great questions. So if you are interested in anything Revenos related, we have a Revenos training calendar. This is going to be their best way for you to find out when their classes are, or even if they get changed. So if you notice when you actually scan in this, you're going to get a copy of this. The calendar, if you look at the bottom left, it's going to show you the time zone that the calendar is in. So this is important because, we work with different time zones here at EXP. And I used to be in the Pacific time zone. Now I'm in the Central time zone and it's completely different because all my meetings that used to be at 8 a.m. are now at 10 a.m. So it's just make sure we're looking at the right time zone. And what I recommend is if you go to the bottom right, there's a little plus sign. And clicking on that plus sign, what it does, it creates a copy of a dynamic calendar to your own Google Calendar. And then you'll be able to see everything in real time, as dynamic as possible. So there are times where, for example, let's say I would have had a class on Monday to do, certification. I wouldn't have been able to do it because I lost power. So I would have been able to change it. And if you don't have that dynamic calendar, and if you just download all the classes or put them into your calendar, then you would have probably gone in there and figured out, hey, well, where is he at, right? Well, how come he's not here? So clicking that plus sign is going to be the best method to get the calendar so you have it available to you to be able to attend certification classes. And most of our certification class, actually, I think all of our certification classes, you're able to take them in any order. So for example, let's say you can't make July 18th REO certification module 1. Well, take module number 2 the next week. And then whenever we offer that module 1 again, you just take module 1 and you'll be able to complete the series that way. So we're trying to be as flexible as possible to allow you to be able to fit your schedule as best as we can. So these are our different workplace groups giving you the REO and institutional investment. But if you are interested in relocation business or affinity business, it's the top left QR code, or express offers is on the top right. If you are missing REO 1, you're welcome to have it as well. But making it rain and also bundle select, all that information, all these workplaces. When you go into the workplaces, I highly recommend you read the pin post. The pin post is going to have a lot of the data and information that you're going to need to make sure you navigate this correctly and are able to, get it as much information as possible, because it does get a little bit overwhelming. I obviously understand it because I've been working in it for a long time, but we understand that, when you're first starting out, just seems daunting. But my recommendation is find out the one that most interests you and start with that one and start getting certified in that one. And then the second and third and fourth, right? Because you want to get to know your niche market and probably even concentrate on that niche.
Awesome. Yeah, that was very informative, Kelvin. I think, my takeaways here is that we have all of these resources and paths to create business. And at the end of the day, like, we're sales people, and our job is to try to get in front of as many opportunities as possible with these different paths, just kind of deciding. So for example, if you wanted the bundle select program, that would be where you're going after, companies, and doing presentations, I'm assuming, like that's the employee company type route, as opposed to if you went through the REO side, your time is probably going to consume more with BPOs and things like that. So like you said, take a look at what's available on the menu and then pick one, maybe two to go deep into, aside from your other sales generating activities. You can be certified in all of them. However, what you focus on will expand.
Yeah. And if I was me, I'd just get get certified at every single one of these. So just so that I have that opportunity if they come up like, yeah, I'm certified in that. Like, and also the workplace groups, sometimes they're looking for folks because maybe they haven't completed the full certification, but you're in process. So they'll post it every now and then in these groups like, hey, I'm looking for an agent in, for example, Downey, right? And then you have the opportunity to respond, hey, I'm in Downey and I'm, Relo or Affinity certified, so, and then that just puts you at the top of the menu, or I'm working on getting my certification, or I can do that, I can help you. So these workplace groups are definitely a good place to be. Every now and then I go post in like a state workplace group, but sometimes when there's a lot of posts, it just starts pushing it down. So a lot of people don't see it. So it just is a great way for you to stay connected and see what we're offering. And that way you can see what potential other business you can start earning.
Awesome. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks so much, Kevin. We appreciate you.
All right.
And
Thank you.
thank you,
Have a
everybody
good one.
else. We'll see you guys Monday. All right.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.